Alright, how's it going, folks? Wits NFL here. Today, talking about the Weimar. Very, very big news about the Weimar. Weimar, if you are on Discord, you may have already seen this, but Weimar, they're going to be nerfing it. Some people actually see this as a buff, so it's not all bad. Well, not all good, I should say, because any nerf to this ship would be good. But, so it's really actually quite unprecedented, something they've never done before, unlike any other nerf, not just in the sense that it's a premium, but in how they're going about it. So to get right into it, Weimar, they're not changing the statistics about it at all. No reload nerf, no damage nerf, nothing like that. They are literally going to take this ship and put it at tier 7. That's it, which is crazy. They've never done anything like that before. They've never changed a ship's tier. Now, if there ever was a ship that needed it, it would be this one. You know, don't get me wrong. But it's still interesting that they're doing this. So, another interesting part about it, Weimar is going to get, one thing it means is it is going to get access to the 4th slot. Now, this is not just something I'm saying. It is something that Prince Blip, Sailing Robin have confirmed on Discord. It is going to have access to the 4th slot, which means potentially, I mean, your choice, right? You could choose the better range and get the range out to something ridiculous like 19 kilometers, or you could choose the reload, which will take the reload down to something like 3.6 seconds, which is insane. That's really insane. So you can imagine with Weimar's damage record already being 315,000 at tier 6, imagine what this ship is going to do coming across Conquerors, Yamatos, and Kurfürsts. I don't think it's going to struggle. You know, it's already a nuisance to remove, and even despite it having tier 6 armor going against legendary tiers, it doesn't get nuked. It just gets overpenned. So it's not really a balance. It's just going to be able to spam them for even more damage, really. They have more health to give out, and they also have super heals in the case of Conqueror, and this ship is also going to be firing a lot faster too, with a 13% quicker reload. Actually more than that, because the reload inspirations are going to stack on top of that, so it's just going to be really, really insane. Now, a few things to note. Like I said, it is going to have access to the 4th slot, which means you can get access to the reload. Nothing changing here. It's not getting any kind of heals. There's no plans for adding any kind of repair party. Nothing like that. AA. It's horrible AA for tier 7, right? You do get a fighter plane, but it is horrible AA. That's not changing either. So, you know, take that as you will, right? But, again, you know, the artillery, I have a 5-second reload on this. This is with no kind of reload buffs at all, which, you know, I've seen people get it into the mid-4s with reload buffs, so another 13% on top of that, you can get it to be pretty crazy. 17.3 kilometer firing range in current state. Again, you get access to the slot 4, you could buff that even further, right? 10.5% fire chances, again, really crazy stuff. So, yeah, that's the gist of it. It's going to tier 7, it's getting access to slot 4, the faster firing guns, keeping the same armor, no heals, same AA. So that's really what it's going to come down to, is it's going to be against, you know, you're no longer going to be able to bully tier 5s in this ship, which I think is really long overdue, because, I mean, every time I take this ship out, it's cyberbullying is what it is, especially coming against tier 5s. This ship had no place going against tier 5s. Now, a couple things to note here, according to Discord. For the players that bought it and don't like it, you know, that they're bringing it to tier 7, they are going to be offering potentially a doubloon refund. They have not said exactly, but Prince Blip did say they are potentially going to be offering a doubloon refund or other options for players. Not really clear what the other options are going to be, but, you know, they are going to, for sure, confirmed by Prince Blip, they're going to be offering something if you no longer want this ship at tier 7, which I don't know why you would, because personally, I think it's going to be going from the best ship at tier 6 to the best ship at tier 7. You know, I think it's just going to blow everything else out of the water. It's going to be a mines with worse armor, potentially, worse hit points, and worse AA, right? But much better DPM. So currently, the damage record for Weimar is 317,000, which is the best at tier 6 by far. Helena is the only thing that comes close with around 15,000 less, but Helena, obviously there's some glaring weaknesses with Helena that Weimar doesn't have, in that Weimar gets a long-range sonar and torpedoes, plus longer range. So it's a lot more well-equipped than Helena, and Weimar seems to get overpenned a lot more frequently as well. The other thing, so there's been some controversy, not much. It's a pretty overwhelmingly popular decision. The people who like Weimar playing it are excited because it's a reload buff and it gets to go against legendary tiers. It's just the potential for more damage, right? The people that dislike it, you know, they're getting it at a higher tier, so it's not really going to have quite as easy of a time, potentially, right? It's going to struggle against carriers. Carriers are going to be a very good counter against it, especially with the release of Saipon, because these things are going to be kind of coinciding. So there is that. Saipon's definitely going to make this ship struggle a little more. But, so Prince Blip, one of the things that he was saying in response to some of this controversy, in Discord, says, a list of cruisers at tier 7 that have better performance than Weimar in damage at the moment. Only Ochakov, Suzulia, and Mines. That is it. There are no other cruisers at tier 7 with better damage than Weimar. Weimar also beats every cruiser at tier 7 and legendary tier in win rate, except for AL Baltimore at the moment. That's how big the gap is. Those are Blip's exact words, which is pretty insane. Not shocking, you know, we all knew this ship was broken, but insane nonetheless, right? And especially with this, you know, reload buff, it's going to make it even crazier, right? And having access to the legendary tier hit pool, I mean, I can only imagine the kind of damage record it's going to set. Personally, I think it's going to, you know, right now it's got the highest tier 6. I think it's going to go to the highest tier 7, potentially the highest legendary tier damage. It's because, you know, you have a better reload than Des Moines with 12 guns and a 10.5% fire chance, which is crazy. Plus torpedoes. Worse armor, again. You have 16mm bow and stern. Now the top section here is 25, so there is that, which is more traditional for tier 7. So that's not completely unbalanced, but in any case, it is going to have lower armor going against a lot of the ships that it will. But just with the insane reload, fire chance, DPM, and torpedoes that this thing has, plus the long-range sonar. 5.4 kilometers, you know, I don't think it's going to struggle. I think it's probably going to be better. I think it's going to set an insane damage record that's just going to blow everything else out of the water. But in any case, with all that said, I am going to change this inspiration real quick to a more traditional one that's a little more useful. Where's he at? There he is, Vimbelli. Another 5% off the reload. Let's see what this reload gets down to. And I could also change fully packed for reload station as well. 4.7 seconds, okay? So one reload inspiration. I'm going to keep Yamamoto for now. Go ahead and swap this for refill station. Swap that for steer clear. Everything else looks good so far. And this is with legendary tier, or legendary 1 Von Muller. So you could get this down a lot lower. We're down to 4.6 seconds, which, let's see if that even changes at all. Yeah, it's only a 3% difference, because I've only got him at legendary tier 1. 4.6 or 4.7, so it brings it down a tenth, right? And that's, we could take a look, see how much difference. Yeah, so you could probably, I mean, 3%, it's probably 10% at legendary tier 4 if I had to guess. So that's pretty significant. That could be low 4s with a full reload build. Probably 4. I want to say it's 4.4 is the exact number. So you can take another 13% off of that, right? 4.4 minus 13%. That comes down to 3.82 seconds. So after it goes to tier 7, gets access to this reload slot in tier 4, right? The maximum, the lowest potential reload you can get this down to is 3.82 seconds. Imagine that. With 12 of these guns, with great HE damage, but also the 10.5% fire chance as well. So it's just going to be a fire monster. I mean, it's going to be a DPM monster even more than it is now. That's very significant, you know, nerf 13 seconds or 13%. So, you know, keep that in mind. I personally think it's just going to do better than it was before. With all that said, let's go ahead and take Weimar out for another tier 6 spin here. A couple questions you may have. We already talked about the reload. I'm sorry, the refund potential, right? But another question you may have is about the... I'm drawing a blank here. I just had it. It'll come back to me. Heals. Again, not getting a repair party. It's they have no current plans to give it a repair party at all. That's not what it was, but there was something. Running on low sleep right now, so having a harder time remembering things. Oh, when will this change go into effect? They mentioned not next update, but within the next few updates. So we're going to have a couple more months of Weimar going against tier 6, tier 5s, like we are in now. So we just get to bully everything. So you got a couple more months. Tough it out for a couple more months, then it's going to tier 7, where it will undoubtedly set some ridiculous damage record. Another thing is the economy of this ship. A lot of people played this ship for the credits. I've seen some people get 1,000,000 credits a match, which is crazy. It is going to get the tier 7 credit booster, so it's going to cost as much as a tier 7 to run, but it's also going to give you more credits per battle. So I still think it's going to be a great way to make credits. I still think it's going to be an insanely, probably OP ship, but that is what it is, right? There are more updates and changes coming this update as well, besides Weimar. Notable one is the Veneto. Of course, they're bringing that reload down to a 31-second base, I want to say. I'd have to check the patch notes exactly, but it's pretty significant. It's like a 4-second buff to the reload. But then also the Roma. They are changing the Roma as well, and the Azuma, believe it or not. They're giving the Azuma a better reload, but also worse alpha strike. So, but they are saying it's going to be pretty significant, right? Yeah, so you can imagine this with basically half a second better reload, right? Or actually, it's nearly a full second. And that's what you could potentially get it out to once it goes to tier 7. So personally, I'm very excited. One, to see what kind of ridiculous damage it can get, but also so that way it doesn't bully tier 5s anymore. Because this ship really just has no place at tier 5. It's way too broken.
Feuer alarm!
So we got to be careful here. So there's the Helena, which is, obviously that is the tech tree DPM king. There went the turret. I gotta speed up here. Did I just beach? I just beached. That's on me. These guys are not happy with me, which rightfully so. Trying to stop their push here. There is a battleship. Ah, down we go. I think we might get this guy. Yeah. I think that's death for him. Not the best Weimar game in the world. That was a little too aggressive. But, in any case, I have plenty of Weimar games on my channel, and I have plenty that I don't post. I don't run this ship. It's too easy. Yeah, you see 52,000 Elite XP, and a lot of that's very recent, just because I started doing cancer divisions with my friends, double Belfast and a Weimar. So yeah, I'm glad I got the videos I did with the cancer divisions, and I can probably get a couple more before this change takes effect, right? But that's the gist of it, guys. Weimar is going to Tier 7 exactly as it is. Only change they're making is it's getting access to Tier 4. It's going to have Tier 7 economy, which means the credit earning potential, but also the service costs. The reload potential, the new one, once it goes to Tier 7, is going to be 3.82 seconds. And I think that's about it. Aside from the other ships, like I said, Roma getting a buff. It's getting the rolling smoke screen, believe it or not. Other big news, which I forgot to mention. They are testing SAP, the Italian semi-armor piercing, in main batteries as well. It's going to be a few key ships, the Italian premium cruisers only, nothing else. So Duca di Costa is going to get SAP. It is going to be a choice. You'll have to replace HE with SAP. Now, again, this is a test. They're going to see how it goes. If it goes well, then they may bring it to the Italian battleships and the Italian cruisers. But for now, the only ships that are getting SAP is going to be the Italian premium cruisers. So keep that in mind. Doria is also going to be getting a buff. I don't remember exactly what. Probably needs it, because I just cannot get along with this ship. Caracciolo is going to stay the same. The Cavalier also getting a buff as well. The 4 Italian ships that are getting buffs include the Doria, the Cavalier, the Veneto, and the Roma. Roma is probably getting the biggest buff with the rolling smoke screen. Don't believe they're giving it SAP secondaries, but I'd have to check patch notes. They didn't exactly make it clear. Anything else? Azuma getting a buff. Let me check the patch notes, actually. Give you guys some details. Let's see here. Let's check my Discord here. A couple of us were talking about it earlier. Now, they are calling this patch Balance Overdue, which I think is the most fitting name they could. The Kid is going to get defensive AA fire. Another big one here. Concealment Mod is coming to all battleships. Every single battleship from Tier 6 to Legendary Tier is getting access to the Concealment Mod. Personally, I'm not sure that I like this one, just because some battleships need it more than others. Like, I think Champagne really needed the Concealment Mod. Vanguard really needed the Concealment Mod. Amagi, I actually really like Amagi, so I don't think that's terrible. But you can just imagine a Massachusetts or an Iowa with a Concealment Mod, right? Or the Kurfürst. Kurfürst was one that needed it. But yes, every battleship from Tier 6 through Legendary Tier is going to have access to the Concealment Mod. Nagato is getting a buff as well. I believe I'll have to check what that buff is. Azuma's getting the buff. Several Italian battleships get buff. Italian premium cruisers are getting SAP shells as a test, and Weimar is going to Tier 7. Let me check to see what the Nagato buff is here. The Italian premium ships that are getting SAP as a test are going to be the Gorzia, the Duca di Aosta, the Tier 5 one, the Genova, and the Duca degli Abruzzi. I'm sure one of my guys in my Discord is going to threaten me over those. He's Italian. Let's see here. Weimar's going to Tier 7. That's pretty self-explanatory. Here we go. Italian battleships. Conte di Cavalier, the Tier 4 Italian tech tree ship, The main battery reload's going to 27 seconds from the regular 30. The Andrea Doria is getting the exact same buff, going to 27 instead of 30. The Vittorio Veneto is going to 31 seconds instead of 34, so it's a 3-second buff. Let's see. HE shells with a maximum. The Roma is getting an HE shell damage buff of 5,800 up from the 5,100. And it's getting the rolling smoke generator in the 3rd slot. And then you're also going to be able to keep the enhanced secondary targeting. Doesn't mention anything about SAP secondaries, so I wouldn't count on that. But keep that in mind. And then, let's see, Nagato, or the Azuma. So Azuma is getting 7.5% better shell grouping, which is a big one. That's a lot more accurate. So the main battery reload is going to 24 seconds, down from 26, so that's also pretty big, another 2-second buff. HE shell damage is boosted to 5,100. That's actually very, very good for a cruiser. Now, the reload is Battleship-like, but so is the HE shell damage. That's nearly Vanguard. AP is also going up, so I guess I was mistaken. It's going up to 8,650 max, which is another 500. The one nerf they're doing is they're making the AP shells start ricocheting from at a 45-degree angle down from the 50 they used to. And Nagato, let's see, 29 seconds of, so they're boosting the reload, buffing the reload down from 32 seconds to 29 seconds. The AP shell damage is going up another 500, up to a max of 12,600 from 12,100. They say it may be more effective than it is, but they'll just wait and see how it goes. And the kid is getting defensive AA fire in place, which can be used in place of the engine boost as well. So yeah, that's the gist of it, guys. Concealment mod for all Tier 6 through Legendary Tier Battleships. Kid gets defensive AA fire. Nagato's getting a reload buff. Azuma's getting buffs across the board. Several Italian battleships get buff, including the Roma. The Italian premium cruisers are getting SAP shells as a test, which means if it goes well and they can find the balance for it, the Italian battleships and cruisers in general are going to be getting it. And the Weimar is going to Tier 7. Exactly in its current state. Only changes are going to be to the economy and the access to the 4th slot in the 4th slot for the ship, right? Which means you could get the range out to some ridiculous number. You could also get the reload down to, again, 3.82 seconds. Armor stays the same, AA stays the same, no repair party, nothing like that. It's going straight to Tier 7 with access to the 4th slot and Tier 7 economy. Personally, I think it's still going to dominate. I think it'll go from the best cruiser at Tier 6 to the best cruiser at Tier 7. I should probably say the best ships at those respective tiers, actually, but you know what I mean. Nothing else changes. So, I'm excited and terrified at the same time of a 3.82 second Weimar reload, but I'm also kind of excited to see what kind of ridiculous damage numbers it's going to end up with. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for tuning in.